Well, hello, Kevin, and hello, Alex.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Hello. So I'm privileged actually. Kevin's a bit of a hero of mine. So I've been in the industry for about 30 years, and Kevin's been in for quite a few years as well. And I've followed the progress of Kevin over the years, and seen the difference he's made to the industry and a lot of clients' lives, of course. And I'm really, like I say, really privileged to be here, for you to give me the opportunity to do a podcast with you. It's very exciting. So first, we better introduce the dog, right, Kevin?
Yeah, so Diddle's here, and he's going to be a pain in the ass. So we should just try and ignore him. He will settle down eventually.
Yeah, that's all
but
good.
he's stay in London.
Yeah.
Well,
You never know, you might have some really valuable contributions.
I agree.
Better than
I
ours.
agree. Better than ours. Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to. Oh, this is just too cute. So I wanted to start off by saying just a little bit about when I started out in the industry. I went down to a CEDIA show down in Croydon, I think it was, and Kevin then had a distribution company. You probably weren't born when we went
Before my time. Yeah.
So I went down to this hotel, and everybody had their tables out doing their thing, and there was a couple of rooms that you could hire out for CEDIA. And Kevin had hired one for See Here, which was a very early distribution company distributing some great products around the industry. I remember walking into this room and seeing moving panels and TVs coming out of furniture, and just these guys were doing it in a very, very different way, and it really inspired me to start up my own distribution company. So when I look back to the reasons why I started out, I always go back to Croydon, and I thought, if I do a distribution company, I want to do it like this. It's it's very, very cool. Have you got any memories of doing your distribution company, Kevin?
Well, I think the first thing to acknowledge here, Mike, is that you were much better at the distribution company than I was.
I don't know about that.
Because it was relatively short-lived. I think it's 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
I remember doing it because I was just like an excited child.
Yeah.
Because I'd come back from the States and found all these really fascinating things like flash mount speakers and multi-room audio. And I remember that particular exhibition, we had a Barco 67-inch rear projection television,
Right.
which was just a monster in those days. 67-inch was, this is the days of 32-inch television was just a dream of the future.
Yeah.
And so no, I do remember that, and I remember going to the hotel before we built the stand, and finally they'd just decorated the room we were going to be in. So I contacted their decorators who did that room, and found out what the wallpaper that they'd used to decorate the room, and then I went out and got wallpaper and paint to match, and then we created false columns and panels which we were able to then decorate and match to the room when we were there. So we were able to transform the room, and it was no good reason for doing that other than we could, and I suppose that that's kind of where See Here was a good opportunity to show people these exciting products.
What were the first products that you were distributing? I can't.
First one was Audio Access, which was multi-room audio in the days before Sonos, and we had Snell loudspeakers, sadly no longer a brand.
Yeah.
We have Runco projectors,
Oh my goodness,
sadly no longer our
Runco,
brand.
yeah.
You see the theme here.
Yeah.
Where a lot of brands which then consequently went out of business.
Yeah.
ADA,
Yes.
no longer a brand.
Yeah.
So lots of we included a poor job, but we enjoyed doing a poor job, and
No, you really didn't do a poor job.
And there was some lovely people that we met in the industry.
Yeah.
I remember Richard Sturger from ADA gave me a really invaluable piece of advice, because he had 3 levels of cinema processor. One that was about £5,000, one that was £10,000, and one that was £15,000. And I said, what's the difference between those cinema processors? He said, when you first start in the industry, you'll sell the £5,000 one.
Yeah.
Later on, you'll learn how to sell the £10,000 one, and you have to have a £15,000 one aspirational. And when you've been in the industry long enough, you'll just natively sell the £15,000 one. I said, yeah, but technically what's the difference? He said, well, there's nothing. And yeah, I kind of took him at his word there, which was not that we should sell nothing for lots of money, but that actually people aspire to have these things in their homes, and we shouldn't let our own understanding of what makes financial sense get in the way of not offering them things that otherwise they would never have dreamed existed.
Absolutely, absolutely. But you did that alongside obviously running a very successful custom install business, which has its challenges as well, because some dealers are not wanting to buy from a distributor that also has a custom install company, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then in the end, I had to make a choice.
Yeah.
Are we a custom install business or are we a distributor?
Yeah.
And we chose to stay in that custom install business because I enjoy talking to clients. And I think that's what I would have missed if I'd been in the distribution business.
I think you picked the right one, but you are incredibly good. And wherever I go in the world and whoever I talk to, your name comes up, the name of your business comes up, and people aspire to being like your company, as good as your company. And I think for years, I think you've gone around exceeding expectations. I think that's what you're really good at. A lot of people ask for my advice after 30 years in the industry. And as I said earlier, when we were downstairs in the room, I think the one piece of advice is try and get really good at exceeding expectations. And like I say, you guys are incredible at that. So the distribution thing finished and you went into custom install. And how long's that been now? What's the time scale from your first install to now?
I think 40 years.
Yeah, we're getting close to 40 years now.
I think we did our 30th anniversary. All of these things are a bit wishy-washy because there was no real moment in time when the business started. It was just a matter of I had some products and people buying some things, and a few years in, I realised it was paying the bills, and therefore I thought, no, this is probably the business then, and so that's why the beginning point. But we marked it in time. Alex was part and parcel of the team that put together our James Bond 30th.
That was 35 years.
That was our 35th anniversary party. So that kind of pegged the starting date. Yeah. And now Alex has gone on to exceed the expectations of the entire board by planning our next big event.
Yeah, we'll stop a good party.
Yeah. So a little bit about you, Alex. So give us a bit of an overview.
So I have been here nearly 10 years and joined I say the industry, not necessarily meaning custom install industry, but high-end construction as a whole, completely green to that industry. Came across the job ad online and thought, that sounds like an interesting company. They do what? And this crazy stuff. I've never heard anything like this. And got in touch and was hired. They've told me that because I was completely not technical and had no idea what any of this stuff was, that was kind of the reason I joined, because I think there's a really big difference between the conversation you need to have with the client about what they want versus what all the techie things we want to tell them. And especially, back then, actually, there was a lot of technical things that you might want to tell them that they would care not to hear. And actually, they want to know or talk about the things that matter to them. And that's a very human conversation, not a, let's talk about this amazing. And I know nothing about the technology even now, and I don't try and keep up, but it's not quite the dark art that it used to be. The conversations we have with clients now, they know a bit about this stuff and they see how accessible it can actually be. So we've adapted in that sense. We just want to talk to them when we get the time with them and understand how they're going to live their life and how we'll ultimately fit into that. So I kind of spend my time with clients, with client teams. There's two very different parts there to it. Maybe we never even get to meet the client with a lot of the projects we work on, but surrounding that project is a bunch of people, and we're all working really hard to design, build these homes and yachts. And it's an exciting industry to be part of. I thought I might be here a couple of years. Seemed quite interesting. This sounds cool. My first week actually was timed with Monaco Yacht Show. And they said, oh, yeah, you're going to fly out to the show and you'll meet some of the team. And I was like, okay. I'm saying to my husband, oh, God, I don't know what this is going to be like. And, I was the new female employee, so I couldn't slum it in the team apartment. They had to put me in a nice hotel. I was like, right, okay, I'm liking this job so far. Yeah. Year 2 comes around, they're like, yeah, no, you're not staying there this year. But even just joining and it's going straight into something like the yacht show and what's involved and the people was really surreal. But actually there's just a lot of good people out there trying to do a good job for clients. And as you said, that trying to exceed expectations and just do the right thing is kind of how we
Definitely.
try to operate. And, you know, really wonderful bunch of people to work with, and in the business and outside. And so, yeah, 2 years was turned into 10, and here I am. So,
well, I think it's ingenious actually bringing people into the business that just kind of like music, like film, want it to be easy to use, because actually that's all our clients want, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
They're not asking to know everything there is to know about the technicalities of a loudspeaker or you know, how a projector works. What they're actually saying to you is, I love film, I love music, I want it to be really easy to use, and if anything goes wrong, which invariably it does, right?
Yes.
Then you're going to be here to ensure that you put it right.
And actually, that's a really good point. There's no point pretending that it's not going to go wrong. We try and have that really honest conversation up front. They're going to spend some money on this stuff. That's an investment. It's going to go wrong. Technology breaks. Even a user error prevails often. And so that aftercare point is definitely a huge conversation piece for clients. And it might be that, you know, when we're talking to them, they've probably been burned by not having that support elsewhere. And that's tough to be able to provide that all the time.
And I think that goes back to exceeding expectations for clients. And Kevin, we were talking earlier in the room about perhaps a mistake that some custom installers make when it comes to aftercare, and about what your vision is for looking after your clients, and what you think that custom installers should be considering more sort of moving into to next year and beyond. Yeah,
I mean, if you start out with the concept that this is a client for life and you're a service industry, I think a lot of custom installers feel like it's a one-time event in their lives where they're going to go and put a lot of equipment in a client's home and ka-ching. And they think that's the moment when you make the money. And I think that my experience of it is that the moment you make the money is when they call you 3 years' time and you're there next day and you sort the problem out. That's the thing that cements your long-term objectives with our clients. And I always liken it to a plumber, because we are actually, Steve Moore coined the term beautifully, digital plumbers. And so we finish at the end of the job, and hot water comes out the hot tap, cold water comes out the cold tap, and water drains away down the plug. And we think somehow that's our achievement. Well, that was what was expected. It was always going to have to perform those tasks, so we shouldn't take that being the moment we get the applause. The moment we get the applause is when we keep going on. And I think some people see that as the one-time event, and actually when they go on and provide long-term care, they really undervalue it because clients really value it.
Yes.
And so charging the right amount of money on an ongoing basis, year after year after year, that is where your profit is.
Yes.
And that's that residual stream of business. And over 40 years, we've built up a lot of customers, a lot of whom we still work for. And we work for their children and their children's children.
Sure.
No, I'm sounding really old. but you know, they have widespread families, and they're all over the place, and some nationalities of families can be hundreds of people. And if you can be that person, they go, I can call them, they'll come. That's really so. If I was to do one piece of advice, not that I'm setting myself up as any kind of sage here, but my one piece of advice would be charge properly for service, give incredible service. That will buy you business forever.
No, that makes so much sense. And actually, it takes me back to when I used to work for Kef, and I was out on the road, and I remember going back to the office and one of the girls being in tears, and she said, "Oh, the dealer rung me up and he was shouting at me," and I said, "That's awful, and I'll call him and I'll tell him never to do that again. You know, that's really, really bad." But what was he shouting about? And he said, "Well, there was a delivery and it was supposed to be on a Tuesday and it didn't turn up until the Wednesday, and you guys were on site." And I said, "That's really, you know, that's not nice, is it, that he shouted at you?" But I think we need to appreciate that it's only when something goes wrong that your client will then measure how good you are, right? We don't want it to go wrong. That's the last thing we want. But it's only then that they measure, because they expect, if they ask for a TV to be installed and they ask for a sound system or lighting, they expect to turn the lights on and the lights come on. They expect to turn the TV on and watch TV. And it's only when something goes wrong that they're measuring you.
Well, that's the thing, you know, we talk about a lot of this stuff now. I mean, you mentioned the plumbing, but, you know, this is a utility to them. The IT, the Wi-Fi, being able to stream their box set at night is just a given in life now. Like, everybody wants good Wi-Fi, and actually the minute, as much as we hide everything away and all of this stuff happens in the background, the minute they can't turn the lights on and watch TV, that's intrusive in their lives. That's a really normal thing.
Yeah.
We all go home, we just switch the telly on. And so, as you say, that is really when it all comes into play, is how you not pretend nothing's going to go wrong. I think clients really appreciate just some transparency and honesty, and they quickly know when that's not the case. And we really try and operate in that way all the time. Even at times when you go, if I just talk to them about it this way, it'd be a lot easier. But no, we're going to have the honest conversation, because a year from now, when we say, well, we talked about this, they respect that. And I think it's really important that you have that with the client. It'd be really easy to say yes to lots of these people all the time, to pursue more work with them. It's not necessarily the best way to form long-term relationships. And as you say, when we get some really incredible feedback from clients, you know, who have been in that moment of pure frustration because nothing's working, and then the feedback we get about the team, how responsive we've been, how professional we've been on site. I mean, it's really, that's the bit that's heartwarming, not the bit when we sold a bunch of kit and we went through construction. That's, as you said, that's kind of the start, Kevin, isn't it, really? And they judge us the longer, almost the further out you go, that they could still call us up 10 years on and we'll be there. So, as you say, that's a sound piece of advice, the aftercare thing, not to overlook it.
Well, when dealers ask that sort of question to me about, Mike, what have the really successful dealers and the non-successful dealers, what have they got in common? And actually, a lot of the time, my answer involves a big conversation about aftercare. Aftercare's everything, isn't it? So, and I know you guys are just super good at that. And I'll mention, you know, people that I think are top of their game, and I'll mention you guys. And you know, of course, you do wonderful installations and some of the best installations. But I would say that you lead with incredible aftercare. So that's great. So I've come into the showroom again this morning. Haven't been in for a while. Kevin and I spoke before COVID, I think, before lockdown, about this vision that Kevin had about the experience centre and about what he wanted to do, this revolving sofa. And I was thinking, what's it
I was thinking that too, to be fair.
and I've got to say, I came in this morning and I was gobsmacked with how cool it looks in there, and the sound system. Oh my God, the sound system is just mouth-wateringly good. So if you get an opportunity, I'm sure that Alex and Kevin will allow you to come down and have a look around. It's out of this world. It really is. So tell me, what was the sort of inspiration behind the change? Because you literally ripped it out and started again, right?
Yeah, and if COVID had been less of a thing, and we'd all just got over it after a few months, I probably would have just, re-wallpapered it. But
you had too much time to think.
Way too much time to think. And I was the Boris of the integration world. When lockdown came, I just came here and locked myself in and started tearing stuff down. So I didn't really, I didn't stay at home long enough. I was frustrated, I suppose, previously that we had a cinema which put everyone facing in one direction, and it was therefore hard to have meetings in. And I ended up sitting cross-legged on the floor in front of clients who were sitting in a row of chairs, and I just thought, how can I do this with more respect? And so I thought, well, if we could all sit around and face each other, that would be a start. But I had, a cinema is a wall. I'm going to steal someone else's thing here. It's a window onto other worlds. I keep reading that. I keep reading that on LinkedIn. It's a really good phrase. Window into other worlds. It is, but the other three walls are just blur. So how can I make each wall a window? Yeah. And then I had imagined that I would have to get them to keep moving around the room, and
it's ingenious.
So actually, I stole the idea from a project that we did in Monaco, where a client had opened up a big hole in the side of their building, and they wanted to watch TV, but they also wanted to see the incredible view. And in the end, we couldn't resolve how we were going to get a big TV that wasn't going to be in the way of the view. Yeah. So we ended up putting the big TV in the wall behind them, hit it with a panel. So when you came in the room, the big sofa stared out the window, it was a lovely view. But when you picked up the TV remote and hit the TV on, the entire furniture arrangement in the room turned. This panel opened and you watch TVs with your back to the window. Yeah. And then when you switch the TV off, it all reverted back and you were back left with the view. And so that was a kind of, oh my God, that would solve our problems. There's an incredible company with with an amazing history called Boomat in Germany, who make turntables, and they have turntables which you can leave ocean liners on, and they do turntables that move railway station trains, and they have moving seating arrangements that drive themselves into auditorium. I mean, these guys are absolutely incredible at the automation and moving stuff around.
Yeah.
And so I spoke really, really nicely to Boomat, and very graciously they supported us by putting a turntable.
I'm not surprised. I bet they're really happy that they did now, because that room is outstanding. And usually on these podcasts we have a conversation, and our genius Mitch overlays images and video of what it is that we're talking about. I'm not going to do that this time. And I think what we should do is we should set up a sort of an afternoon, an audience with Kevin. I think would be great down there, and invite some people in that are that are watching this podcast that would like to see more. Come in, have an audience with you, perhaps get to get to know you a little bit more, and get to sort of understand some of that knowledge that's going on.
We'll get you a snappy suit ready for that.
Yeah, let's do that.
A snappy suit.
Yeah.
That would be a first.
Yeah.
No, but I can't say enough how much I was blown away when I walked into that room this morning. So well done to both.
I think, as I was saying, earlier, Mike, was that it has transformed the space in the sense of it's called our experience centre. And we've always had a lot to say. Yeah. We cover a lot of services, and there's lots of things we can show people. And we used to kind of bring people around the space as a, we're going to talk lighting here, and then we're going to talk IT over here, and shading over here, and here's the cinema. And it was this kind of educational tour. There was lots to say. There was new technology at the time. We were trying to bring people up to speed on DALI and all that kind of thing. We had a bit of a spiel, and we had things to say, and people would go away with brains full of information. And architects, interior designers, people working on projects that need to be aware of some of this stuff. And actually, we go through these evolutions of what's happening at the time. So we've less to say these days around all of the detail behind the scenes, and actually it's about immersive spaces, and clients are, as I said, it's not quite the dark art that it was, but just to show them what it could feel like in a space. So we've dressed it more now. It's not come and open the door and see what's behind the scenes. Actually, they can just see what it could be like in their homes, or give people ideas, I suppose, on what could be possible. So yeah, it's just a nice. So we get a bit dulled to what it's like in here. We're here all the time. It's a nice place to be, and we've certainly found recently it's been. To have that space that moves around. If I said to you earlier, if the client isn't going to have a cinema, they just don't engage with that room, and there was no need to go in there, and they saw no value in it, and we see them less as dedicated spaces and projects, I suppose. So now we have this space we can sit and talk about a project, and they can hear some stuff and see some stuff, or it's fun.
It's a fascinating space, and I think that you call it an experience centre. What I would say is it's a kind of credibility space. You guys are world renowned for doing what you do, but I would imagine the moment a client walks into that space, it just drips in credibility. It's just, if I had £1 million to spend, I've got to say I'd walk into that space, walk into your showroom, meet you guys and say, I'm just going to leave it up to you now. Let's have a quick conversation about what it is that I want to achieve, and I'm going to leave it up to you now. But you've been leaders for many years in what it is that you've done. And I think that what you do really well is you're always innovating to get to that next level. And you've done that brilliantly here.
That'd be a bit frustrating for the team.
I bet. Yeah, I bet.
I already have plans for what comes in January, which is my next most exciting thing. I'm like a small child.
It's their own fault, isn't it? They gave you that title as founder, and
I know, and how I found it was being a small child playing with stuff.
This is your playground, I suppose, isn't it?
And we have some really amazing toys coming in January.
Oh, cool.
Which I will re-invite you back to come and play with, because you'll think it's cool.
Definitely.
So yeah,
things don't stand still here for very long at all. No, but that's part of it, it wouldn't be right if it did, I suppose.
I mean, we treat it more as an exhibition space, and actually we use an exhibition stand builder. A big shout out for MC Squared, who I love working with, because they work entirely based off my pen sketches, which I photograph on WhatsApp to them, and then they transform into exactly what I've asked for.
Love that.
But it's built to exhibition standards here, because I just know that the moment some part of it's finished, some other part of it will come along and change that. There's some really interesting stuff coming through.
Very cool. Well, I've really enjoyed the conversation. I know you guys are going to go on to doing your own podcasts and bringing people in from the industry to learn more about their businesses, which is super exciting. But I always like ending a podcast with asking you a little bit of give us a nugget. Give us a little bit of advice for custom installers. Let's focus on custom installers out there. Have you got anything you'd like to share with custom installers heading into 2024, seeing the changes, seeing the challenges that we're all facing? Have you got any advice that you would like to finish off with?
So I'm gonna steal the thing off the tube station.
Yes.
Which both Alex and I noticed on the way to meet a very impressive client who we have been fighting to meet for 10 years.
Right.
And we finally got the opportunity to meet this client who was coming here. And whilst we're confident in what we do, we're always nervous to meet a client in the first instance, because, you know, it is a personal thing, and, you know, they might take against you, whatever. But the sentence written on the board outside the tube station was, "Speak the truth, even if your voice quivers."
I love it.
And that's what we did with this client, is we spoke the truth, even though it wasn't necessarily the party line.
Yes.
We just said what we thought.
Yeah.
And we got a great response.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you have to do with clients.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I'm going to put you on the spot now, Alex. Anything you'd like to share to finish the podcast?
I think my experience of custom installs is probably different to most, because, like I said, I didn't start the business I wasn't here at the beginning. Technology doesn't run through my veins, but I love what we do. And I think a lot of it is the transparency and the honesty with clients, but just to have it's not about the technology at all, really. There's some really impressive things out there, but meeting good clients and just managing their expectations, as you said at the start, exceeding their expectations, but in a very human way. I think that's what builds good business and long-term clients. If that's what I assume most people are aspiring to do, is find some long-term clients that they can follow and work with longer term, is it's not actually about what you're trying to sell to them. It's about the relationship you want to build with them. And obviously that, you know, I can say a lot of things in the room. I rely on the team to go and deliver it.
Sure.
And luckily we have a really great team and some fantastic people in the business, and always looking for more incredible people. And we've found some really good ones. And I think that's I don't know if that's a piece of advice or not, but great people are what make the company work so well.
Sure.
And having some good client relationships is really key. So they would be my things.
Exceeding expectations.
Absolutely.
Well, I told you a line right at the beginning. I said that we would delete this and this would just be a practice run. I think it's been a really cool podcast. I've really enjoyed doing it, and I think we'll absolutely be using it. So it'll be all over social media in about 2 hours.
Oh, great!
But no, it's been great. I've really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you, Mike.
We will definitely speak again soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you.